All right, blog post time. And there's going to be a poll for the next zombie character that usually comes around Halloween. So maybe in late October. And one of the options is going to be a squirrel girl zombie. Oh boy. And I had to pull that up in Chat GPT on what that might look like. Probably going to be the thumbnail as well. Okay. And there are going to be some changes to season 14 of Cosmic Crucible. And I believe this is because of the Starjammers' underperformance. So when we look at Ultimate 32, rooms 1 and 3 were not favorable to Starjammers. And it looks like those rooms were going to be 1 and 4 of the next season of Cosmic Crucible 14, which has been delayed and is not happening this week. But Starjammers have had some problems. So in some ways, this is like the third boost to Starjammers. Well, they redid the kits. Then yesterday they announced that they're going to be stat increases. Havoc 5 and 8 on his health and damage. Howard the Duck 10 and 8. Lilandra 6 and 10. And Lilandra is essentially available for free, through normal gameplay. Also, Lilandra is going to be required for the Professor X saga. So that is a win for the community as a whole, because a lot of players are going to have, 7/7 Lilandras. Groot and Rocket, also veteran players have Groot and Rocket, 20% health and damage stats on each of them. And I think that's a W also. If you're just starting the game, there's a couple characters that have been reworked recently that new players have good access to. Rocket and Groot are two of those characters, as well as War Machine and Captain Sam. So that's Captain America's Sam Wilson, are reworked, boosted stat characters and relatively easy to get for a new player. So let's go over the changes to season 14 before we go over the blog post. After reviewing some of the data on recent Ultimate 32 tournament, we decided to remove Stage 1, Glass Cannon, and Stage 4, Take a Moment from Season 14 of Cosmic Crucible, replacing them with the following stage rules. So the data that they saw was that Starjammers didn't work well in those rooms, and that's the reason why I think they're doing it. Now, hunting, the first room, Glass Cannon, was the room where, if you did Striker, they get spawned with Safeguard, 90% max health, 100% damage, spawn with Death Proof. So there was a bunch of really creative things going on in this room. Sidestep, Safeguard, it says Sigurd, but it's Safeguard. People are using Ares and or Apocalypse on offense to negate the Death Proofs. People were putting Medusa on defense. People were putting Striker Thanos to rain fire and get rid of, the Safeguard and the Death Proof, all kinds of stuff. Starjammers did not perform well there, right? So they're going to replace Stage 1 with the room that we've had before. It's kind of a boring choice, but whatever. On defense and offense, Striker characters on successful attack apply bleed. Raider and Skirmisher characters on successful attack, if the target has bleed, perform an ISO attack against that target. So we've had this room before. I mean, it's kind of a nothing burger in a lot of ways. I mean, I think there are some subtle ways to get the most use out of this room, but it's not nearly as drastic of a room as that Glass Cannon. Then the room 3 in Crucible, which was going to be room 4 in the next season of Cosmic Crucible, it was going to be here in room 4. Take a Moment. Lower that character's focus by 5,000% and damage by 50% for any non-Mephisto character that takes a turn before any character on defense. So this was like the passive of Cosmic Ghost Rider inside of Alliance War. Also, this room was not favorable to Starjammers. It just wasn't. Starjammers could not get in there and deal with the Odin Illuminati. And then people were using Mephisto to get through it. And then to counteract the Mephisto, people were putting Null with Odin Illuminati. So for whatever reasons, they did not like that. They are changing it to make the next season more favorable to Starjammers. And again, this is a room we've seen before. After using an ultimate ability, spread all positive effects to adjacent allies. Ultimate abilities cost 2 less ability energy. So we're going to see some heavy hitters in here. I feel like in the past, Super Scroll was a character that got used quite a bit in this room, Mephisto and so on, also possibly going to get used in this type of room. Now, let's get to the blog post because there's some other things. We got Silver Sable coming to the game. So battle plan for April 5th through April 11th. Battle Pass featuring Howard the Duck. And also, I just want to make a comment. They have really drastically reduced the amount of gold and training materials in the passes. And that's not good. I believe it's like half on the paid track. I mean, they've dropped these numbers in half. So I'm curious to see what this one looks like because I believe the community was not feeling it at all. And I would think that it would have negatively impacted sales and maybe they'll revert back to the way it was. Sword Lab battle. So they're bringing back the Sword Satellite. I like that. I'm glad that we're bringing some PvE. Mutants versus Zombies, Crimson Storm. Silver Sable will be on the 10th. And then we're going to have a quick Rubble. So Silver Sable will have the traditional release method, which is fine. The team kind of requires them all to be together to be useful. Well, anywhere. I mean, I do think they're going to have some use inside of Alliance War. I'm not sure about Crucible. Of course, they're a raid team, and then they've also slotted to be one of the better choices for unlocking Professor X because the first bottleneck for gear tier 20 is going to be City, and there you go. They said in one of their in-game messaging that it's going to be Vigilante and maybe Blade and or Oath. We'll have to see how that plays out. Sword Battle Lab. Train your top warriors in low Earth orbit for big resources in Sword Battle Labs. Newer commanders are encouraged to join the battle through floor 60s, with including 10 new lower floors in this Cosmic Clash. Plan your attacks well, as losing a battle will mean falling 5 floors. Smash through the milestones to grab Crimson Gear, Tower Orbs, a 3-diamond Punisher, and a 3-diamond Electra, and are the key resources. Opportunity bundles to the surface on April 7th. Now, this means to me, if I don't need to be buying Punisher and Electra diamonds. I've already bought some, and that was wasteful. So get the word out. Don't buy the diamonds on Punisher and Electra until we see how this works out, because maybe it'll be something that we'll have to get relatively painless. Now, this is the part of the post that I like the most. Night of the Living Pole, the 4th zombie. Hela demands another undead warrior to round out her undying squad, and whatever the goddess of the underworld wants, the goddess of the underworld gets. But all of you get to choose the next zombie character. I think this is just fantastic. I love this. Next community poll. Choose from the following characters who will get zombie fever and help create the ultimate 5-character Alliance War zombie team. So Squirrel Girl, Cosmo, Kestrel, and Cable. I like it. And I never really liked the Squirrel Girl character, and I just thought she was kind of like a meme character. And that's why I was like, I wonder what that would look like. I mean, that's just ChatGPT's version of what a zombie Squirrel Girl would look like. In my brain, it sounded better than when the image came out. We'll have to see what the community votes. Now, they're going to do something different here, which I also like. By community request, the vote will be hidden, meaning live votes results will be hidden until the conclusion of the poll. So the poll goes live on the 9th and ends on the 16th. Don't miss your chance to shape the future of Alliance War and brains everywhere. Now, in the past, you could vote every day, and every day you got some sort of reward, like 100 energy and 100 power cores. We'll see how that plays out, but there is typically some sort of reward for voting every day. Twitch drops. So Twitch drops are currently running right now, and they're going to be running next week also. So this has been extension. It's been basically running for 5 weeks now, and it starts and stops on Monday. So if you do the following in any given Monday to Monday, you'll get the following: power cores, million gold, and 500 L3 training modules. I know for me, I think the community would be happier if they're L4s, but I suspect they would have only did 250 L4. So the difference between the purple and the orange training modules is that the purple ones are half as strong. So, I mean, I guess in some ways this is like giving two $50 bills versus one $100 bill. Okay, but I think more training materials is better than not. Friday free claim. Sometimes these come in late. So I'm finding that it says this, but these ones sometimes are late. So this is today. At the time of publishing this video is probably a couple hours before this. So an X-Men in space event, mutants versus zombies. Prey on the brains of your foes to war, to feast on diamonds for Scarlet Witch zombie and gear. And this was a interesting event, and we're gonna have to see how this plays out. Again, we'll see. I have some memories of thinking I liked mutants versus zombies in the past. I don't know if it's going to be the same or not. How score points? Nah, this looks like a standard. This doesn't look like anything, actually, now that I'm reading it. Battle and Alliance War, earn X coin, playdate, orb fragments, and sword satellite, blitz with Daredevil, Modern, Silver Sable, spend power cores, and open up 2 of the exclusive Daredevil Modern orb. Okay, fine. Gear tier 19 pieces in X coin. Actually, I'm in big need of some of the unique 19s. That's going to be one of the problems I'm going to personally have when the Overpowered comes to the game. We're going to have a conversation about Overpowered because that's coming to the game on the 7th on Monday, and then so on. Command Center is there. Right now, the Command Center for me is not doing what I think their intent is. Their intent was to clean up the UI in Marvel Strike Force and put everything in one area. And I don't think we're using a final version of Command Center. My hope is that the milestones and the events all get merged into one area, and it's cleaner and it's easier to understand and just cycle through them and see what I need to do. It's a work in progress from what I'm hearing. Straight up, the events tab right now is a cluttered mess and it's a disaster. I don't feel that way about milestones as much. Milestones seems pretty intuitive. It's just the events one, but if they can, blend them together in a more efficient way, I welcome that. All right, we're gonna switch over to some comments about Overpower, and I got to tell you, I've been going over Reddit. This is one of the higher upvoted posts on Reddit, and I'm not going to read all of it because it's a good post, but some of it, I think you'll get the point very quickly. I know people have saying for years that every new stupid idea Scopely throws at us that the game will die, myself included. With the whale Kraken cheat code about to drop, I really think that this time is actually going to happen. Nobody outside of big spenders think that this is a good idea or something fun, or something even remotely needed in the game. On every platform where MSF talked about, 95% of comments about Overpowered is negative. I agree. Does Scopely care at all about their players? They definitely see the feedback, but are gaslighting us by trying to force us to believe that this is good and will introduce more theory, crafting, and competitiveness. Yeah, the way that post was written, I was like, whoa, they chose some weird words to spin it. And I was like, yeah, I don't see it like that. I do see it a little bit differently than other people in that I see this being a temporary boost to power for the whales and krakens who upgrade characters first. So for example, like I'm not going to be the first person to get, all of my characters to gear tier 20 or anything like that, right? And they're going to be players that on the day of the launch of the Professor X, they're going to have, a whole bunch of teams. They're going to be able to get through it quickly and first. And I'm not going to be one of those players. So those players will be getting some boosts. Absolutely. For example, just going from 19 to 20 alone is a 20% boost. Now, if you do the 9 o'clock piece, with the unique, you get a lot of stats. And so I don't know, so let's call that 19.5, but there's still a difference between 19.5 and 20. And then all of the characters that are gear tier 20 versus characters that are gear tier 19 or 19 and a half, in addition to those stats, which could be up to 20%, they're going to get 50% focus and 50% damage. And I think that is going to be kind of a pain when we look at what characters people are going to take to gear tier 20 first, like Odin, right? People are going to take Odin to gear tier 20, and that's just going to make Odin more of a nuisance. And the way that I see this is going to push marginal teams out much quicker. So I'm talking about, like in Crucible, would be new warriors. This overpowered system probably pushed new warriors out of being viable. Well, possibly. They're still pretty fast. Or a team like New Avengers or Underworld and Alliance War may not be effective with this new overpowered system. We'll have to see. It's going to be coming into the game on Monday. And frankly, this is probably going to impact someone like myself the most, because I definitely play against the top spenders in Alliance War, and I quite often play against the top biggest accounts inside of Crucible. It does happen, but I think this is going to be worse for people that are loading into Crucible and they're always the smallest collection power, and everybody in their Crucible bracket is 2 or 3 times larger. That's, I think, who's going to impact the most. And we'll have to see how this plays out, but I don't think this is going to go over well. I don't think the entire community is a big fan of this. They definitely see the feedback about our gaslighting us by trying to force us to believe this is good, introduce more theory crafting competitiveness. I see the exact opposite of that. I've been paying faithfully every day for 2,300 days. My TCP is only 112 million. Definitely nowhere near spenders. I take pride in going to my arena shard and punching up over 1-2 million against a whale and taking their top spot away. Now all of that will be gone. Raids all suck. RTA is a joke. Well, raids won't be affected by overpowered, but I do agree with what they're saying here. RTA is a joke. I agree. Always has been. Personally, do not like CC at all. And that's where this is going to CC, Arena, and Alliance Wars, where this is going to be the most impactful. Wars are kind of fun for me because I'm a top 250 Alliance. Arena gives me the most satisfaction because I use my skill playing to beat harder opponents and get rewards with the most important currency in the game. And again, now that'll be gone. I do think that this is going to negatively impact players inside of Arena that are not even with the top players. So this is a temporary boost, though. So when the big spenders take their entire Arena team to gear tier 20, that'll place other players at a disadvantage. But then at some point, players will be able to take their Arena team to gear tier 20 as well, right? And then it'll balance out. So this will give the heavy spenders an advantage in that time frame between when that becomes available. Now, that's just 5 characters. I think that this is going to be more of a drastic situation in like Alliance Wars, because let's say that's 10 defensive teams and 12 offense teams, or maybe even 14 offense teams. I'm not willing to take all of those characters up to gear tier 20 quickly, but somebody might take up 120 characters and they're going to get a lot of bonuses. But Arena is how many characters, right? 5 at least, and then maybe another 5, but it's going to be the best characters in the game. And frankly, those are the characters that are going to get upgraded to gear tier 20 first. Now, this is not accounting for the next level of progression, because this thing is going to keep going and going and going with purple 4 and purple 5 and so on and so on. I'm just talking about the near term, but this probably will continue to be a thing going forward, where the top spenders will have a temporary bonus until the people can catch up to them. So we'll see. I know it's very controversial. I can see that for sure. All right, let me know what you think in the comment section. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye for now.